Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of Sending the Community with me, Hafiz Muhammad Umar. I am a qualified Senko by profession, and each week we try to raise awareness of a medical condition or a special education need or a disability, or we get professionals in who have either lived experience or have worked with young people with special education needs and disabilities, and we talk about how their work can support those individuals with special education needs and disabilities. This includes young people as well as adults, and I try to have as many guests on the show as possible. And this week I am absolutely delighted to have Bav Shah with me. And Bav is the High Sheriff of Bedfordshire. Welcome to the show, Bav.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
And thank you so much for taking the time to come and join us. Bav has been the High Sheriff of Bedfordshire for a few months now. It's an incredibly important and equally honorary role, and Bav is going to be telling us a bit about his role and also his involvement in the community before he took on this role, and what he hopes to achieve in the remaining couple of months that he's at the helm, and then also a bit about what he has seen in terms of SCN in the community in and around Bedfordshire. So Bav, tell us a bit about yourself first of all, please.
Brilliant. So I'm Luton born and raised, and very proud of that. I'm a chartered surveyor by trade, commercial property, and this year, so I run my own commercial property consultancy, which is called Business Property Solutions, and I now have this the honour of being the High Sheriff of Bedfordshire for the last 10 months now. Time has absolutely flown by, and I've got 2 months left, and it's just such an honour to give back to the community for a year in seeing what we can do to build a stronger, happier, harmonious community across Bedfordshire. And I have to remember that now. You know, I'm a very proud Luton boy, but I for this year I wear a Bedfordshire hat.
Excellent.
And it's great to get out there in the community.
And that's a great thing, because Luton is in Bedfordshire, and for those of us with a mad cricket mind, we often try to challenge ourselves to go beyond club level and play at county level, and Bedfordshire being our county. So for you, I guess in cricketing terms, we can think that's like a bigger step up rather than just being in Luton. And in terms of excuse me, the role itself, High Sheriff of Bedfordshire, what does that actually mean then?
So the role is the second oldest position in the land, actually, and it's the High Sheriff is His Majesty's the Crown's representative for law and order in each county. So there are 55 High Sheriffs across the country, and originally, going back to the 1100s, the High Sheriff would have been law, order, and tax collector for the King. And that is all ceremonial now, and we have the police force and the courts, and our role is to support them. It's a totally voluntary position. We don't get paid for this. We don't get a penny of the public purse in any form of expenses. So it's a purely voluntary position. That's why I say it's one of the probably one of the most honourable voluntary positions you can get appointed to for a year. So, but apart from the law and order side, which is I guess more relevant to our show today, is our focus on the community and how we can work with community groups, charities, individuals across our county in generally making a happier place for everyone. I genuinely believe that no one wants to live in difficult or troubled or dangerous surroundings, and I think it's up to us as a community also to support each other and the services that are being provided in our community to enhance each other, get the best out of each other. And this is where I absolutely love it, going around the county in meeting so many different organisations and individuals, hearing about what they're doing and seeing what we can do to support them and how we can put groups together to support each other in achieving our greater goal of better communities.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for summing that role up brilliantly. So that, as you say, is a ceremonial role, but the code of dress is still remarkable and very much stands out when you're in your full gear. Yeah,
so it's for those who won't see it, or maybe if you see a picture on Inspire FM socials, we'll put a picture up for you to see. Yes. It's a 3-piece velvet uniform with a long coat, breeches, waistcoat, jabot, cuffs, and a hat. It's nice to maintain these traditions that we have. And as part of this as well, I actually commissioned the uniform to students at my old university, fashion students, and
Fantastic.
it was to give them an opportunity to learn more about the history of the role, and also give them an opportunity to work on something quite prestigious for 18, 19-year-olds to put on their CVs and their portfolios that they've made something for a royal appointment has been quite special for them as well. That's
brilliant. And which university was that?
That's Nottingham Trent University.
Oh wow, amazing. And I'm just pointing at something rather special here. Tell us a bit about that then.
So one of the part of the uniform, and this is usually the most usual talking point, is the sword which we carry as part of our uniform as well.
Is that a real sword? Is that a replica? What is that?
It's part of the uniform.
It's heavier than I thought it was. I thought it was just a little plastic thing, but actually, I just lifted it up, and it's like what a good few ounces there, I think.
So that stays safe.
Excellent. So that's your official role, Bav. And since you've been at the helm, what kind of things have you done?
It's in 10 months, it's been absolutely incredible from all across the county. Things. As part of our duty, we are responsible for being available at royal visit. So the Duchess of Edinburgh has been to county twice. Wow. So we've been very fortunate to meet her. Another part of our role is the High Sheriff of each county is returning officer for the county. So I was privileged to read out the election results, as I had an election year this year. We've all part of our role as well is supporting law and order. So I've been fortunate to go out and do ride-alongs with the police and the fire service, visiting the hospital to actually understand the challenges and constraints that they go through, and that's been quite enlightening just to see behind the scenes, sitting with the judges in the courts to understand what they go through in the court systems, visit the prison to see how our public services work. And then outside of that, it's been, as you see, we've met on a number of occasions. It's going out and supporting the community as much as we can, and anyone who's doing good work. So, I think we met more recently. Last week we met twice at the Luton's Best Awards, where we're celebrating the great achievements of people in the community, and also at here where we are downstairs in the Dallow Centre, when it was Food Bank celebrating the work that the local mosques have done. I visited a number of schools, visited to talk about how to be, ideas about why we should be good in our communities. We've done everything from presenting to 3-year-old children in school to visiting someone on their 107th birthday just last month. I've had the honour of opening the new simulation suite at the University of Bedfordshire a few weeks ago, which is a great simulation suite where for medical professionals to really get as much experience before they're out on the streets dealing with real life situations.
Is that the one over at the Bedford campus?
So the Bedford one is opening at end of this month, and this was the Luton one.
This was the Luton campus, right? Okay.
Yeah. We've been working with visited local youth groups, visited local community groups. We've had a number of Independence Day celebrations. It's been great to go out and, we have a very vibrant county, so many different nationalities, cultures, and it's been great to actually go along and say to people, don't forget your roots, don't forget your cultures, be very proud of where you are, and also be very proud of the cultures of where you're living, and that integration is a very key part of harmonious communities. So, and how we can share, having like a cultural exchange between people, and understand, and that then helps us understand more about, why do you dress like that? Why do you eat things like that? Why do you listen to, and through understanding, I think we become stronger communities as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Now, listeners, you might be thinking, this is wonderful. The High Sheriff of Bedfordshire is on our radio. And why is he speaking on this show in particular, Sending the Community? Well, Bav and I met at the awards ceremony at Luton Town Indians Cricket Club a couple of years ago. It was the end of season presentation night, and I met Bav as a human being before he stepped into his current role, and what really touched my heart was the fact that after the presentation night where I'd spoken about the achievements of our disability cricket club, I'm sure some of our listeners, if not most of you, will be aware that outside of my radio, I do a lot of other things around SEN, including leading on disability cricket at Luton Town Indians Cricket Club. So I've spoken about our achievements that day, and many people came to have a word afterwards, including Bav. And Bav said to me, it's wonderful what you do, and I'm Bav Shah, Governor at Woodlands Special Secondary School in Luton. I was thinking, wow, somebody in the community has attended our presentation night, but is also a governor at a local special school. And that is something that is highly commendable. And Bav, tell us, what took you to Woodlands as opposed to giving your time to other mainstream schools locally?
What happened, actually, so is Leroy Jenkins was a governor, he's still a governor there, and he first got me involved with Woodlands when they were doing the proms, and he put a campaign out because a lot of schools, a lot of mainstream schools had proms, and Woodlands never used to have a prom, and he didn't like that fact, so he went out to the community to get community support of being able to put on a prom, and that's when he approached my family to see if we could support, and we were supporting from then and for a number of years. Then, as we got to know the school more and build up a relationship with the school, I then got asked if I considered becoming a governor there, and straight away, having seen what the school does and how much joy it brought to the students for having those events, and seeing the passion from the students, I couldn't say no.
Brilliant. And from your experience then, of having been educated locally yourself in mainstream schools and then going into somewhere like Woodlands, what sort of differences or similarities, did you come across? And what did you feel the school was doing, which might be considered as going the extra mile or special to meet the specific needs of those children with special needs and disabilities?
I must admit, it was, even with my business hat on, from running my own business and things like that, and understanding operations of businesses and organisations, stepping into Woodlands board meeting was a whole new thing. There's so many different bodies, so many different organisations, all the different bits of compliance, all those. It was a whole new thing. Even though I had experience of being a university governor at Nottingham Trent and some other voluntary organisations, there was just so much. It took a good bit of time to get used to understanding everything. And that's where they were very good at kind of coming back to basics, explaining what things were. But it is because it's a very intensive organisation. When you look at when you have to look at the student to staff ratios, because making sure you can accommodate the students' needs safely based on the different conditions that they've had. Where you typically look at a classroom where you may have one teacher in the classroom for 30 students. I think you could often find yourself in a one-to-one situation here, and so the logistics around that, on kind of just staffing, HR, the physical constraints of the building, and how because of certain behavioural conditions and wear and tear from more wear and tear in the buildings from equipment which is transporting students, and extra levels of how you have to think further outside the box in terms of how vulnerable students are and safety implications. It really gave another sense of appreciation for what is going on. And for example, sometimes you'd hear of incidents, and sometimes because of the individual's conditions, they're not necessarily fully aware of their actions, and sometimes they may get aggressive or things like that. And this is the teachers and support staff are other human beings having to deal with this as well, on top of their day-to-day life worries and constraints, and then having to face very challenging, difficult conditions in the day-to-day life. So as well, it just gave a whole new sense of appreciation for for how the challenges that teachers and support staff in those environments face.
Absolutely. And excuse me, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Listeners, if you have just tuned in, you're listening to the Send in the Community show with me, Hafiz Muhammad Umar. And for today's show, I am delighted to be joined by Bav Shah. And Bav is currently the High Sheriff of Bedfordshire. And as you were hearing there, Bav does a lot more in the community than one might have anticipated from the High Sheriff. And there he was talking about his role as a governor at Woodlands Special Secondary School in Marsh Farm in Luton, which is an absolutely amazing school. And I can only echo and ditto what a lot of what Bav was just talking about. And if you are somebody who has a child with special education needs and disabilities, or you are just wondering, what is this school about? It's a very welcoming school. Please get in touch with them, ask for a school visit, and I'm absolutely certain they will do their best to accommodate you. That school goes above and beyond in caring for some of the most vulnerable, some of the most sick, some of the most vulnerable young people in our community. And by the time they leave at the age of 18, 16 or 19, they are often far better equipped for life out there in the big, wider community than it might have been possible without the school. It is an amazing school. I was there just a few months ago. I did a full tour of the school, and it hasn't changed much from when you would have been a governor there, Bav.
One thing, just to try, if I could wait, one of the questions you asked is what makes them go above and beyond as well. So one thing also, which was I'd like to mention, is when I was a governor there, was when they opened the community cafe at Woodlands, and that was a great initiative. Debbie was the head teacher at the time, and kind of led a fundraising campaign to convert one of the areas into a cafe open to the public. And this was, I think it was very well supported by a number of builders and local organisations and people who helped make it happen. And the purpose of that, which I think is absolutely incredible, was to be able to give a contact point between students and the public as well. Because there's a number of people who wouldn't know how to react, or a bit scared how to behave in front of people with special needs, because they've not been in that situation before. So this gave an opportunity to kind of break the ice there as well, and also giving these children an opportunity under supervision to help in the cafe. They used to help, because they used to do baking as part of their classes. So these cakes would be made and they could be sold, and they would make food and serve and take orders under supervision. Then this also really helped them to build up some experience to be able to help put them into employment afterwards as well, because people often, unfortunately, because some people have not been around people with these conditions before, so this then helped open another door and open up, which I thought was just a great way. And then I used to, particularly before COVID, I used to actually, when I had meetings with my clients and things like that, I used to get them to meet at that cafe. And I used to use that so that people then had to come, and it's open to the public. I think it's reopened again now. I think it's 3 days a week it's open, and I'd encourage anyone to go along and support if you can. And they made it very affordable, so even people who live at home by themselves, or people are lonely, they can go there, have an affordable place, safe space to be. So I'd encourage anyone to get along and check it out as well.
Absolutely, and that is very similar to what the Chiltern School has been offering at Hampton Regis for a number of years. As listeners, some of you will be aware, I am blessed with two younger siblings with Down syndrome. My sister Nabila, who's 32 now, and 33 when she had a birth recently, and my brother Raz will be 30 next month, inshallah. And they're amazing. They went to Glenwood and then to Hillcrest before he became the Chiltern School, and they've had this cafe running.
I'll try and visit that actually. I didn't know about
the Chiltern School in Hatton Regional Park Drive for a number of years, and having spoken to both Nabila and Raz, from their perspective, the joy they would get each time they saw a customer coming into the cafe was amazing. So this is real life. Now you need to go out there and take the order.
Yeah,
you need to go and prepare it, whether it's a sandwich, whether it's a toast, whether it's tea, coffee, etc. They get support to prepare it. But the joy they received each time that a customer was absolutely amazing. And as you said, quite right, it is a real life skill.
Even just making the payment, counting, working out the change and things like that. I think it's such to see these things happening. I think it's such a valuable thing.
And then in the Central Bedfordshire College, they started this initiative pre-COVID. I'm not sure if it's still there or not, but certainly they had started that as well. And what we've got to bear in mind is when it comes to money, you mentioned there, money maths is something a lot of our top GCSE students would struggle with as well. And if they have been added need, they're at a greater risk of going into debt without even realizing, and this gives them a real life opportunity to work with money. In special schools, we tend to work around numbers, etc., or just what might replicate money, but here is real cash you're handling, so it does give them that added opportunity. And so, if people are interested in attending the cafe at Woodlands, as Bav mentioned, it is open 3 days a week. If you're unsure about the timings, please get in touch with the school. But I will reiterate the fact that if you have a child who might potentially be a future Woodlands candidate, please go and visit the school. And also other schools within Bedfordshire as well. We've got St John's, we've got Hillcrest, I mentioned already, which is now the Chiltern School. We've got Weatherfield in Dunstable, Oakbank in Leighton Buzzard. And these are amazing, some of the most amazing schools. And then, of course, the primaries, Ladies Here Warner and Richmond Hill East and West Sides in Luton, as well as the more recent year one, Woodmill Hill. So there are so many opportunities for young people with special needs and disabilities in terms of accessing their education locally. We have focused predominantly on Woodlands simply because Bav had that direct personal link there as a governor in the past. But
there are so many great places out there. So Woodlands was my initial exposure to this sector. But as you're well involved in saying, I'd encourage everyone to support any of these schools and organisations that are supporting children and people through SEND.
And then another one I just remembered is Barnfield College, who does a lot for young people with special needs and disabilities at post-16 level. And what I often say to parents or carers of young people with SEN is, as they're approaching age 14, so around year 9 in schooling terms, at the annual EHCP review, there would be a section which deals with preparing for adulthood. Now, that is a really good time to start thinking about life beyond 16 and start inquiring about these visits. If you're already in a special school, and if you're in mainstream and you think, it's not working for my child, again, it's never too late to visit these schools. And then at the annual review, you can have the right educational institute mentioned on the HCP that you feel would work the best for your child or young person. And it's really, really crucial that we get that right. We are approaching a short break in the next couple of minutes, but when we come back we have a lot more to talk about, including Bav's work in the community through sports, music, culture, and how that is very inclusive for people with special needs and disabilities. And I think it's just a matter of knowing how you can access those events, or even perhaps if there are needs for small grants of funding. I'm sure Bav will be able to tell us a bit about some of the avenues there as well. And just before we go to the break, Bav, in terms of the local SEN structure at the moment, how do you feel Luton is doing compared to Central Bedfordshire or Bedford itself?
I must admit, I don't know enough detail of it. I must admit, my only exposure really has been in terms of my involvement with Woodlands. So I wouldn't.
You've not had the opportunity to observe any of the other local special schools in Bedfordshire yet?
I've not actually. I don't think I have.
If you can,
but I got told about another school. I'm not sure it's quite a school, but an organisation yesterday, which is in Central Beds, which I'm going to try and visit. But I mean, I haven't had much exposure to schools, but there's been a couple other groups which I've dementia groups and things like that. But it's a similar kind of thing where it's people requiring care and extra care and attention.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned dementia there. We had Music 21.
Music 24.
Music 24.
I went to their launch. I've made a few notes of it. Yeah. Music 24. I went to their launch at the Library Theatre. And there's a group called Young at Heart who meet, and there's a dementia cafe and a separate one, another one in Sundon Park, I'm told. So it's great to see that, because we've like saying, it starts with the children, but then there's aftercare needed at later ages as well.
Absolutely. Beyond the age of 25, the code of practice unfortunately covers 0 to 25, and then beyond that is what we really are working collectively as a community throughout Bedfordshire. We are heading off to a break in the next few seconds. Listeners, if you have just tuned in, you're listening to the Send in the Community with me, Hafiz Muhammad Umar, and in today's show I have Bav Shah with me, who is the High Sheriff of Bedfordshire, and we are talking about the excellent work around SEN and what Bav has been able to witness himself and contribute towards for the betterment of our local community in terms of SEN. Please do tune in here straight after this short break. So we look forward to having you with us again very shortly. Assalamu alaikum.
Stay informed, entertained, and engaged. Check out our new website, inspirefm.org.
Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Welcome back to the second half of Sending the Community Show with me, Hafiz Muhammad Umar. And if you were with us during the first half of the show, you will know that I am joined by an amazing person today. He's Bav Shah. Welcome back, Bav.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you.
And Baz is a true inspiration to so many young people in our local community. Bav is the current High Sheriff of Bedfordshire, and he explained that role to us beautifully at the beginning of the show. If you missed it, please do go back, rewind it, and listen to that again. It's an amazing role, an honorary role for a year, and he's about 10 months into that role now, with a couple of months to go. And we were talking about Bav's role in his professional, formal sense, as well as his role as a community governor at Woodlands Secondary School, which is a special school in Luton. And again, if you missed that, please do go back and follow that through. There are community events coming up in the coming weeks and months. Please check your local offer website through Luton Borough Council, which has all the events listed there. And if you are aware of one and you think it's not currently being covered, please get in touch with Sarah Maffrey on sarah.maffrey@luton.gov.uk, and she'll be able to add those events on. So if you search for local or for Luton, that'll take you to that page. Right, coming back to today's show. So we're talking quite in depth about special schools and the amazing jobs they are doing in and around Bedfordshire before we went for the break. And what about leisurely activities, Bav? Sport, music, arts and crafts, culture. Have you had the opportunity to see any good practice locally?
Yeah, there's been a few, and I guess we start with sport, which is how we first met. But before that, I just wanted to just say, I think, and recognizing and acknowledge and praise the work you do in this, creating this awareness as well, and having this show, regular show, to be able to discuss these topics, because I think they're having this platform is great, because often topics like this aren't, the SEND community and things don't have as much of a platform until there's someone like you to really raise these issues and fight for this equality. So I was really pleased to see this is happening. It wasn't just a one-off thing which people doing for a tick box exercise. It's actually there and it's on the agenda, and I'm sure you'll fight to keep it on the agenda to stay. So it gives people an opportunity to learn more and I think like just how there is I mentioned earlier about different cultures learning about different cultures to understand more. It's the same thing with different people's abilities and their strengths, and how we can then accommodate, how we know how to accommodate people and create a more inclusive environment. Inclusive it means whether it's age, ability, culture. Inclusive means there's no restriction. I don't believe there's any barriers or restrictions on inclusivity. Everyone has their own character in whichever way it is. So this is really important, and these things about awareness for how to make sure that someone feels, whether so, for example, some people I've not, you go to an event and someone's never had to deal with how do you make it accessible for someone in a wheelchair, or how do you make it for someone who's got different, we see, whether it's to do with lighting conditions or things like that. So there's a whole thing about inclusivity and promoting these different shows you do which allow people to learn something different from each. I think it's really great in that sense of what you're doing, and the support that different people are giving you and coming in to share that message.
Absolutely, and personally, I think the radio giving us a platform is absolutely amazing, Inspire FM. And then you're right, with the community, there's only so much an individual could do on their own, and it's I guess we're into the 10th month of starting these shows, and we try to run them at least once a week during term time, where we can during the school holidays as well, but that's not always easy, but certainly during term time. And then having so much positive feedback from the community, from the professionals involved in the world of SEN, and really taking this initiative on board and wanting to be involved. So it is wonderful, and people like yourself and others who have had that direct access to these services from a decision-making role as a governor, as well as going in and witnessing firsthand the impact of those decisions, is what we want people to be able to hear about and understand. And more importantly, we want people to know the fact that having an SEN is okay. It is perfectly normal. If you look at each of us individually, what is normal? What might be normal to me might not be normal to you, might not be normal to the third person. And yet, regardless of those added challenges, we want to celebrate how well our community is doing, or not so well, when it comes to areas that we need to learn from. And then more importantly, those young amazing individuals with added needs, and how far they get to go in life, and then bounce off those with lived experiences as adults. So that's where we try to ensure that the platform continues. And to that end, disability network meetings are held once a month in Luton. And again, if you want to be involved, the email to send would be to Andrew Morrell. That's andrew.morrell, MURRELL @luton.gov.uk. We had one already in January. The next one is on the 2nd Wednesday of February, I believe. You can access it remotely. And the main focus at the moment is preparation for the Disability Celebration Month, scheduled for July. So again, whatever ideas, initiatives you can get involved so easily. Going back to.
Sorry, I diverted a bit there,
it's absolutely fine. It's coming from the heart, so that's what we really appreciate. And so, in terms of disability and leisurely activities.
I guess, if we go back first, we originally met at the cricket, so sport and seeing the inclusivity of sport and the table cricket and things like that. I didn't realise table cricket existed, and then when we had the fun day, the family fun day, the High Sheriff's family fun day, in conjunction with Luton Town Indians Cricket Club, in August, it was great that you were able to put on a display, and we had mayors from, I think it was Sandy and Stotfold and Luton and Dunstable were there, and they were getting engaged with that, and it was brilliant. And people say this is to be able to see that there are these opportunities and different ways of being able to be included. Those are fantastic. Like I remember one of the things that really touched my heart. Actually, I've not seen it so much here in the UK, but when I was in Australia, I was travelling. I was at the park with my niece and nephew, and I saw what do you call it, the roundabouts, and it actually had like a slot on there to put in a wheelchair. And I don't think I've seen that in the UK so often. But this was in a public park, and I remember taking a picture of it, and I was telling everywhere. When you see things in the street and you show it, I was like, "Have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you seen this?" And I remember sending it over to the school at the time, saying, "What can we do to get some of this?" Brilliant.
And things have improved tremendously in and around Bedfordshire. So the small playing area in Dunstable, just outside the Grove Theatre, and opposite, depending which side you're going from, near Asda's, behind or in front of Central Bedfordshire College, that small playing area, and they there, I think there is a wheelchair access swing as well, and they've done a lot of recent refurbishments there in the last year to make it more disability access. And then FOB, Friends of Bright Eyes over in Luton, they've had a massive revamp, and they've got an area which is it's all outdoor, soft, and you can clip the wheelchair in for a swing, and also for a little a trampoline as well.
Oh, brilliant.
So you can clip it on and it'll actually vibrate and give you the full feeling of being on a trampoline as well. So accessibility and inclusivity is improving massively, but still there's lots of work to do, which is why we need these kind of platforms to continue. And you're right at the beginning when you said the fact that it's not a one-off thing. We made the commitment as a radio. I, as a Senko, feel very passionate about young people and adults with special needs and disabilities. I want to make sure their voice is heard, and it's heard continuously, which is, at the moment we got this on once a week, and we don't want them to be forgotten community or come on just for a week or a month and then that's say it'll be your turn this time next year. No, it's an ongoing condition, and even then this is nothing compared to what they're going through each day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with the added condition. And we want to make sure they have this platform to be able to raise awareness and educate people. I think during the first half of the show we're talking about how lack of knowledge can still present as a barrier in some cases.
And I think sometimes it's not necessarily people. It's sometimes it's the barrier isn't there, not through people's own fault, because they've never been in that situation.
Absolutely.
So it's and then people get a bit scared as to how they deal with someone with a particular requirement. So I think it's just saying, there's out there to say it's okay not to know how to handle, but there's resource here to understand if someone's coming. If you're having to deal with someone and accommodate for them, it's okay not to know because you've not had to be in that situation. But there is resource out there. There's people who can help you. Which also, there's having gone to a number of events, I learned this year. Actually, I didn't realise that there's actually quite a few organisations who are out there to support carers, because it's quite it can be very tough on people having to, round the clock providing care for family members. And I visited a respite centre actually up in Sopsley, and that's sometimes where people can go, and if families are feeling under pressure or quite tired after having some intense periods of looking after someone, there's these kind of temporary respite centres as well, and these carer support organisations, which that was a whole new exposure to me, learning about all these organisations out there. And I spoke to someone who cares for their parents recently, and they didn't know about these organisations. So that's something to highlight as well, I think. And on the back of that, also young carers as well. That's something that a lot of our communities miss out on support for. Young carers are real, so that could be a young person of school age, perhaps college, university age, who is providing care for either a sibling or a parent or a neighbour. And there is support available for them as well. And when we look at it from a school's perspective, there's a certain criteria we look at, to support additional people. And sometimes young carers, if the family hasn't made aware the school of the amount they do, they can't be forgotten. So for anything like getting school on time in the morning to perhaps added pressure for exams, and some of our young carers may well be administering medication, for example, to the parent or another sibling before coming into school. And that's the conversation that needs to be had with schools. I've known of young people who have had a very ill parents, and they didn't think there was anything the school needed to do, simply because they weren't actually ill themselves, and they ended up missing out on support. And we've got to make sure that we highlight this. And you're right, and carers as adults as well. How do you become a carer? Well, when a parent becomes too fragile to remain independent, we certainly juggle around our professional commitments and think, as siblings between us, we'll make some kind of a rota, or we'll work with our friends and do that. Yes, that's great, but equally there is that support available out there, and people have got to know. Yeah, it's brilliant.
That then I guess takes us back towards carers support is accessible. If you're unsure, contact Disability Resource Centre, who are based in Dunstable and also in Flitwick, and in Luton as well. Other social care, they're absolutely amazing. There are some wonderful people working there who will be able to support you through that. And then in terms of leisurely activities, we mentioned a bit about cricket before. I know Luton Town Football Club have a massive disability section where they offer disability football in the community. Pickleball we talked about a while back, and we had them on the show here. They're absolutely amazing. It's a relatively new sport, but it's taken the UK by storm. And then accessible swimming over at the Inspire Sports Village. I believe that takes place at least once a week. And then there's horse riding for the disabled over at Great Gaddison in Hertfordshire. That's the nearest riding school that I could think of. And then there's a Riverside Tennis Club over in Bedford, which has been running disability tennis for a number of years. We've got Wheel Power at their base in Stoke Mandeville, who offer a huge amount when it comes to wheelchair, and they use including accessing all the gymnasium equipment on a wheelchair. Stoke Mandeville is about a 45-minute drive from here. And again, if you missed the show, we went to visit them a few months ago, and that's where the Disability Olympics were founded at Stoke Mandeville. So there is a whole host of opportunities in and around Bedfordshire.
And
I think.
Talk about actually one of the other honours I had throughout the year was to present awards at the Bedfordshire Games.
Oh, fantastic!
In Bedford, and that's and it was great. I've had some contact with the organisers there. Because that's been going on for a number of years now and run by a number of volunteers, and that was great to see the schools from across the county there, and trying to excel sports through these schools as well, to give that equal opportunity of having a sports day and taking part in physical health and things like that as well. So that was another heartwarming experience to be able to be there.
And excuse me. In terms of access to training, we've covered that pretty well, I think, for any organisations that want to be more disability friendly and are willing to learn. We can signpost them. What about those that are wanting to host events or wanting to make around a positive change? Usually money is a big factor before you could get anything done.
That's the thing, yeah.
So what could they do if somebody has an idea to bring about a positive change?
Within Bedfordshire, I think there's a number of large funds. Luton Rising are very supportive of a number of events, and I believe their funds generally, I believe they're still managed through a grant process through the BLCF, the Bedfordshire Luton Community Foundation, who are also a great central resource to speak to when it comes to funding, and they manage funds for a number of organisations to distribute on their behalf based on different criteria. I was also previously a volunteer at the BLCF on their grants panel, so essentially they will have funds for different requirements, some maybe for sports, health, community, different parts of communities. They'll have different criteria that people have given them funds to manage. So I definitely suggest getting in touch with them in terms of what funds may be available for the type of projects you're looking to get involved in, and then the relevant departments at each of the councils within Bedfordshire. So I'm sitting with my Bedfordshire hat and I'm talking wider this, but within Bedford, Central Beds or Luton, but Luton based straight within the council, and there's been a number of people and email addresses which have been mentioned before, I think, who are good local resources. But there are grants and funds out there. It's just, I think you do need to be proactive on keeping an eye out, just given the challenges we face in society now. A lot of people are applying for funds, so just keeping a proactive eye out on there.
And on that note, if anybody is interested in finding more about it, a good contact would be CVS, who are the Community Voluntary Service. Their website is cvsbeds.org.uk, or if you just go into any search engine and type in CVS or Community Voluntary Service Bedfordshire, that'll give you the links. And as Bav mentioned there are a number of ways of accessing those funds, and one of the nicest things I like about CVS is they actually give you the full training on how to set up up as a group or an organization, so you meet the legal requirements as well as the community needs. So, if you had an idea and you didn't know what to do to bring it into life, they will talk you through the whole process, including opening up bank accounts, etc., as a group or as an organization, to then accessing some of those project-specific funds which would be offered locally, and then they would provide that continued support through that journey of a project. It could be a small grant for a small project, it might be something slightly bigger, and it would be able to give you that continued support. So cvsbeds.org.uk is a really good website to go to for that. And then in terms of hearing more about how your legacy may continue, then Bav, I know you got a couple more ones.
A couple more ones. It's been.
What happens? Do you have some kind of handover at the end?
Yeah, so we hand over to the next High Sheriff in nomination. The role of High Sheriff is only 1 year, and I think that's kind of going to be enough. In my first 10 months, I think I've clocked up nearly 400 engagements.
Wow.
So it's been pretty full on, but it's been. So it's an absolute honour to be able to go out and meet so many people and many different organisations. I think hopefully I'll leave a message of having been able to connect some dots and having things don't unfortunately happen overnight usually. So, but at least I think what I've wanted to have done is kind of help promote inclusivity, stronger communities by bringing people together, and I see my role as being connecting the dots between people. And I think we've connected a couple of dots with you, which is great. Because in terms of bringing, introducing you to the team that wanted to do pickleball, and hopefully that's given some opportunities to some people, helped you support each other, and so those things. So people say, why do you do this if you don't get paid for it? And it actually costs you money because we don't get our expenses covered or anything. We just do it ourselves. And I said, well, the fact that when you see something happen, or when you see someone, when you see that something's happened, and someone says, actually, I've done this now, or for example, one of the very first engagements I did, was at the one of the events. It was one of the Ramadan events at Luton Town Football Club, and just got talking to someone on the table, and he was talking to me, and he said, well, how did you get involved in this, and why do you think your name got put forward as High Sheriff? And I said, well, I was a school governor at Woodlands, I was a Luton Sixth Form governor and careers governor, and I did community bits and pieces. So he said, tell me about being governor. And then some months down the line, sent a message to me, thanks for that talk about becoming governor. I've just become a governor at Sixth Form.
Oh, fantastic.
So little things like that is what makes it all worthwhile. And then the fact after I introduced that lady to you about the pickle, and you said, actually, we've had a conversation, she's been on the show. That's what makes it all worth it. And hopefully, there's some more of those which will happen, and just planting the seeds of conversations and down the line. Those are what kind of gives me the energy and to keep doing it. And hopefully that's what my legacy's left in facilitating, helping facilitate conversations for good.
Inspiring other people to do good for the betterment of the society. I think that is just amazing. And on that note, you mentioned the role of a governor. That's such a crucial role. I was a parent governor at my children's primary school many years ago, and I think the difference that makes to the opportunities at that young age to young people is fantastic.
And the other thing as well, in terms of, I was 39 when I started this role. I'm 40 now, and as far as we make it, I'm Bedfordshire's youngest ever High Sheriff.
Wow! And
one of the youngest in English history as well. So hopefully and that's given me a different platform to be able to approach younger people to say that these roles aren't just for older people. If you kind of got the right ambition and the right drive, people and younger people will get recognised. Same thing like Hanan Ali, who is the youngest deputy lieutenant in Bedfordshire's history, as far as we're aware. So this has been a game-changing year for Bedfordshire in terms of our positions.
Absolutely.
And Hanan and I are working closely on trying to encourage younger people to do good, because you get nominated for these positions, and they're recognised on the good work that you've done. So that's where we're encouraging people to do good work, and good work does get recognised. Absolutely.
And I mean, you mentioned that is quite crucial. So it's age. We're talking about inclusivity, and just wondering, how many people of colour have been in this role before you in Bedfordshire? Do you know?
So I think I'm the fourth person of colour.
Wow. Amazing.
And this role goes back to kind of like the 1100s.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing, though, to think that...
In Bedfordshire, that is.
In Bedfordshire, certainly.
Yeah.
And I think that is wonderful. It just goes to show that how Bedfordshire is showing the true reflection of the diversity we have within the community on such roles of significance in the history, the modern history of the county as we move forward. So that is wonderful. And I remember when Councillor Muhammad Iqbal became the first non-white mayor of Leeds. I was teaching in Leeds at the time, and it was a big thing in the community because in the history of 115, 20 years, they never had a person of colour as the mayor of Leeds. Was received very highly by the whole community, which is fantastic. And I think it just goes to show, how your skills in life are never unnoticed, and whether it's your race, whether it's your disability, whether it's any other element of protective characteristics, that should not limit your chances of succeeding. And it is your ability that truly takes you as far as you can go in life.
Yeah.
And so, listeners, we are coming towards the end of the show. Today on Sun in the Community, I was joined by Bav Shah, who is the High Sheriff of Bedfordshire. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you for inviting me along, and thank you for all the hard work you're doing in promoting the inclusivity and quality for our communities.
And thank you so much for being involved. As Bav mentioned, we've met on a number of occasions in the last couple of years, and indeed will continue to do so in the future as well. And I think the contributions you made to the county will be remembered for a very long time. Thank you so much, Bav.
Well, thank you.
Listeners, that's the end of the show. Thank you so much for tuning in again today. Please do tune in again next week, where we will take another topic and explore it fully here in the Sun of the Community Show on Inspire 105.1 FM. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.